It's back. Scottish football has returned. Plenty of games this weekend. Hearts v Celtic, where Hearts were victorious. Hibs, Motherwell, Rangers, Livingston, and other games that we'll come to later on in the podcast. Before we start talking about Hearts v Celtic in good detail, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. Tynecastle. It pains me. Every time I think about Celtic and a low getting knocked out of the Champions League midweek, and I'm like, that's the low. We'll only go up from here, and then we go to Tynecastle and get defeated. I don't know what to say other than very painful, very tough time to be a Celtic fan. But Hearts, first game back from the Championship, they'll be highly encouraged. What did you think of the game, Mitchell, as a neutral?
As a neutral, I think it showcased how lacking Celtic are, because they just capitulated in after about 70 minutes, and then Hearts. From what I saw the last 20 minutes, and all I saw other than one Celtic attack, which was after Hearts scored, was just Hearts peppering the box with crosses, and Scott Bain being called into action a few times.
A few times?
I was being kind.
Called into action. He was social distancing from the ball. Did you not see the positioning?
That goal was brilliant.
You're just diving. I was like, see if you were actually in the correct position, you would have saved that.
Yeah. You know who Celtic shouldn't have got rid of? Craig Gordon.
Oh no.
that man. Considering your other two keepers can't stop a shot to save themselves, Craig Gordon is such a good option right now.
Barkas couldn't even catch a cold. Never mind the football. He's just been.
Never mind COVID.
But Bain was the starting keeper for Celtic in Lennon's final full season year, and Gordon was the deputy, and that's why we let him go. And then you go, oh, those two saves at the end.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I was going to say, you look at Bain and Gordon, and I don't see how Bain was ever. I can't see why Bain was ever really the starter. Gordon was a better shot stopper. Yes, he can't pass the ball to save himself. But
you answered your question there.
Yeah.
That's why Bain was.
He did what he was paid for, and kept the ball at the goal more often than not.
I'm a neutral in this as to I wanted both teams to lose, and looking at it, the game was actually not. No, I'm lying. It's a terrible game. And Celtic's defence were shocking. Celtic's attack was shocking. Celtic's goalie were shocking. Celtic's midfield were all right. Kept ball, kept possession. There was actually bits that were all right. It was the best. I'm picking at things here, James. That was the best part of your team, your midfield, and it wasn't great. Hearts weren't great either. I mean, Craig Gordon's needed to be called in a couple of saves the last couple of minutes to actually keep them, to give them the win. New boy they've got set at the park, Benny. He looks a decent player. Won the ball, broke up play, kept the ball. Voice was quiet. I don't see a lot happening for Hearts. I think that they beat a really poor Celtic, but Celtic were sort of midweek game as well.
I think when you look at the league though, like you've kind of got Rangers Celtic. There was obviously you had the gap last year. Then you still had a gap from Celtic back to Hibs and Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of looking at it going, is there really much? Well, St Johnstone are probably a team on the rise, but is there really much competition for Hearts if they can replicate what they did against Celtic and pull out these performances? Well, pull out the wins, should I say, rather than performance. It was pretty awful.
Aye. And again, it's if Hearts play like that against every game of the season, they'll not win every game. It's not like Hearts played out their skin. Celtic were pish, and the statistic, it's not the fact that Hearts played overly well at all. I mean, they'll still struggle this year. Celtic will turn round at some point. I mean, I think they're still needing players in. Ralston is a nightmare at the back. Kenny scored that great goal. Defender just off the plane on the pitch. Striker just off the plane on the pitch in the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I actually think the Celtic board have just chucked Angie under the bus, and they've not got enough players to actually field a decent team now. I do think they've got long enough in the transfer window to get players in, and Celtic are never going to finish third, fourth, fifth. They'll always finish first or second, and it's a case of what players they get in the short time. And what might help Celtic is the fact that they've been so poor the first 3 games that the Celtic board know that they have to splash big to actually do something.
Yes, but before talking about Celtic's rebuild, which we obviously need, if you're a Hearts fan, you're delighted after last night. You get 3 points in the game you'd probably not expect to get anything. A good way to start the league season with fans back at Tynecastle as well. I think fans being back will benefit Hearts this season because it is an intimidating place, being so close to the pitch. I thought that Benny in midfield looked a good player. Celtic could do with some bite in midfield. So he impressed me during the game. The other one that did impress me as well was Suter. I thought he defended well, and he obviously scored the winner. But I think, with his injuries, the agonising wait to come back after such a bad injury twice, I think that was a nice moment for him. Trying to convince to the opposition, but I think a draw was a fair result. Celtic controlled the game with no cutting edge and weak at the back, but a draw was a fair result. But the difference between the keepers, Bain was nowhere. Craig Gordon made 2 key saves, and that was the difference between the teams last night. When it comes to Celtic, my initial concern was dying off on the 70th minute again. It happened against Midtjylland, happened against Hearts. I don't think you can blame Ange for that. I think that shows you how unfit the team were last season with Lennon and Kennedy. A lot of people made that complaint, and I think it's just coming to fruition this season with Ange's high press playing style. The drop-off is quite visible for fans. The board, most Celtic fans are blaming the board just now. I understand it. I think you want somebody to blame just now for what's happening. Dominic Mackay's only been in the job for a month. There's not much that he can do. It's Peter Lawwell's fault and his determination to hold on to Len for too long, as well as Dermot Desmond, and then pursuing Eddie Howe with no guarantee that he'd be joining. So we had to get Ange at the last minute. Yes, we need players, but I don't want to recruit for the sake of recruiting. We signed Ayeti, we signed Barkas, we signed Shane Duffy, we signed Bolingoli. How did those signings turn out? That was over £12.5 million between them, and they're never taking out wages. We have spent money, Celtic. The board have spent money. What's the problem is that we are not recruiting correctly. So I would prefer this transfer window, play it safe, get people like Kevin Nisbet, Lewis Ferguson.
Okay, Nisbet.
Kerr from St Johnstone, even Ali McCann from St Johnstone for some solidarity in the midfield. Play it safe, get the positions we need covered from Scottish football with people who know the game, just to cover the cracks. But at the same time, get data analytics, a director of football. So from January, we have people who can play Ange's system fitting into the team. Most Celtic fans probably won't agree with that, but I think that the long-term option, that's the best thing to do.
Are you basically saying, James, this season's a write-off? Get
No.
yourself in a basis for getting the next season ready?
Cover the cracks till January. Recruit correctly in January. Be there or thereabouts. That's my thinking. Is it Stegros from Dundee United? He's a good shot stopper, proven in Scottish football. Get him in until you can find a goalkeeper who can play the way that Ange wants to play. Why go and spend 40 grand a week on wages for Joe Hart when he couldn't even play Pep Guardiola's system?
Pep Guardiola's system.
No, but
yeah, that's nothing on Angie.
I know Ange statistically proven that Ange's keepers are more than double involved than Pep Guardiola's keepers are in the system. But the point is, why spend all these big wages on big players who don't suit the system when you can get proven players in Scotland who will cover the cracks just now until we get the recruitment side of things properly sorted?
So, James, what you're wanting to do is you want to nullify any competition by taking the best players from the other teams around Scottish football and basically nullify any threat, as well as taking those players within Celtic to try and push them forward. It's basically going to ruin Scottish football, which is what the ugly sisters of Scottish football has done for the past few while. And there's a little dog that agrees with me.
Oh, what I think is...
You took Derek Riordan for Hibs and sat him on the bench and barely played the game for because he kept scoring against you.
Well, what I think is Ajax, PSV, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Juventus and all that, they have systems where they take the best players from their league who play out with the bigger teams. It's a natural progression for these players' careers to go from...
You're talking about all these leagues that are one-team, two-team leagues. This is why they're one-team, two-team leagues. This is the issue with Scottish football.
But the issue already exists. So you're saying that Celtic and Rangers can't buy from Scottish teams to try?
No, I think that there's certain Scottish teams that are starting to come on to the fact that happens, and certain Scottish teams that are having a bigger bill to Celtic and Rangers than they will have down south. Hibs have done it a couple of times where they've said, right, we'll sell this guy for 3 million. Oh, Celtic rate one, Celtic Ranger one. 4 million for you, 3 million for everybody else. I think that needs to happen through every Scottish football team. I
think that's a fair system because not only are you receiving a transfer fee, you're also giving your competition someone. So that higher transfer fee does make sense. But Celtic are in a situation where we pay £5 million for a Yeti. Why not pay £5 million for Kevin Nisbet, who you know will score goals in the SPFL, is young enough to have a resale value? Why not just spend the money on somebody proven in Scotland? So that's my thinking. But we could talk a while about Celtic's rebuild and just make me have much more pain. So I'm going to try and...
Can we stick with that? I like that.
That's fine. That's an hour's worth of James's pain. That's fine.
I think we will move on and talk about...
Well, have a quick word about Hearts first.
Oh, yes. Have more words about Hearts. Mine's a broken.
They'll still get relegated. Hi, Gavin.
Well, what I was going to say, Martin, is that we had one side of Edinburgh jubilant yesterday, another side of Edinburgh jubilant today. 3-2 victory against the new Hamilton and Motherwell. Are you encouraged by that performance?
I'm encouraged by parts of it. I think we've exposed certain... it wasn't until the commentator said about the game today that I didn't realise that Hibs didn't concede a headed goal all season last season. Conceded 2 goals today, first day of the season, and both of them headed goals. So you sort of look at that, you think, right, we've lost sort of parts of what we've done last season. But I'm very encouraged with the performance. We've been down twice, most of the possession of the ball, most of the chances. Their keeper still made more saves than our keeper. Aye, still quite happy. Unfortunately, the Josh Deutsch, who we're kind of hoping to push on this season and keep this season. Jack Ross has came out early doors and said he won't be playing because chances are he'll be off Watford, Arsenal, a couple of teams sort of interested in hovering about. Big money in for a young player that I had for one season. Fortunately, we've still got Lewis Stevenson in that position. He's probably got another couple of seasons in him, I would think. Not quite got the pace that Deutsch has, and I think he was caught a couple of times with that fact. I'm quite happy with the game. Don't want to overanalyze the game. Motherwell actually not as bad as I thought they'd be this season.
I thought Motherwell striker was quite good today.
Aye, big Van the man.
Yeah, he's in my fantasy football team for Scotland.
Is he?
But don't even know his name, but I knew I had him. But he looked a threat. Watching that game,
He also should have been red carded.
He should have. I will admit that. He should have been. Should have had Andy Halliday, by the way. I'm trying not to sound bitter, but that was a shocking challenge last night. But back to the Motherwell game. He should have been red carded, but he took his goal well, and he was a nuisance up front. And I'm watching it going, oh, this against Stephen Welsh. Oh. So.
Well, he was so he was to a degree he was a bit of a bully up there. He tried to push people about. He tried to have a bit. I will know Hanlon and Porteous. Porteous is that type of player. He likes to have that sort of challenge against him. He likes to kick people, wind them up, piss them off. Tries to get the best of them, and he did on occasion with him. But I think you always notice when the striker gets on top, you don't really notice when the defender gets on top as much. Mm-hmm. But he definitely had a touch about him, moved a bit a lot. Eye for goal. I don't want to overinflate his goal, but it was mainly defenders' errors for his goal, I would say. Midfielder sitting in that position. But I do think he's a player. I think he'll cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams this season because of his first game this time as well.
For the Hibs game, before we move on, I think it's also safe to say that Nesbitt had a good game, Martin Boyle had a good game, and Kyle McGuinness, is that his name?
McGuinness, yeah.
McGuinness, he had a good game.
Yeah. McGuinness, well, I'm looking at that Hibs team and I'm thinking Scott Allen's not in there. Scott Allen is probably one of Hibs' best players just now. In the centre midfield, I would put him above McGuinness to a degree. But I for the team that we had out, and the fact that we've still got people to come back and have a little bit of depth to that, which is definitely what you need when you have midweek games. James, you'll know what it's like to have a midweek game and then go into a Saturday game, then a midweek game, then go into a Saturday game. It is a difficult thing. And I always thought when you're playing against Celtic and Rangers, you did want to play them straight after a midweek game because you had the best chance to actually get a result against them.
Yeah. Mitchell, did you watch any games in Scotland?
I watched, as I said, I watched the last 20 minutes of the Hearts Celtic game. And I did actually watch the Rangers game for like the start kick-off of the season. And I do think the Rangers game, I think they look dangerous. They look like, I think the left back Calvin Bassey, I think he was I think he went kind of a bit. He wasn't the star of the game, but I think what he got through his work, his movement forward as well was pretty well done. Because everyone raves about Tavernier, but I think what he did on the left was equally as good. Not at the level of who's the normal left back, the Croatian, but Barisic, yeah, not the same level as that, but he's someone who probably could get up there, I think.
And the decision that surprised me in the game yesterday was the fact that McGregor didn't start.
Yeah. I think that shows
you don't often rest goalkeepers.
Yeah.
But I think that shows the depth with Rangers compared to Celtic. Is that they can rest their number one goalie and then still have a goalie who comes in and is like, oh well, I say you wouldn't know the difference, but with Celtic you really wouldn't either, but for different reasons. And like McLaughlin's one of those. I think he needs to start trying to push for more starts over McGregor. I think he could possibly. I think he will probably end up replacing McGregor eventually, but at the moment he's still just not getting enough games to even really be in contention.
You're Steven Gerrard. You're playing Malmo this week. Do you play McGregor or McLaughlin?
I think you go with McGregor. I think he's proven to be so reliable and such a great shot stopper at the big moments. I think you keep your trust in him.
Why would you start McLaughlin on Saturday then?
I don't know. Gerrard's from Liverpool. Who knows what he thinks?
I can't what he's thinking. He's thinking about robbing somebody's house for Liverpool. He came out before the game and said that I think they were starting with McGregor, but basically he has every faith in both goalkeepers. The game's just in a couple of days. He wanted to rest McGregor, get McLaughlin in. McGregor will be starting against Malmo. I think looking at Rangers, I think you're right, Mitchell. I think they have got a depth to their squad.
Yeah.
I think you look through their squad, and it used to be the point where you would think, right, he's playing, he's got a mistake in him. Ken.
Yeah.
Whether it was who was the Italian boy that was playing for them, Amoruso.
No.
You think, right? Amoruso's playing, right? He's got a mistake in him. We can get through there. Halliday's playing. He's got a mistake in him. You look through the team in the new, and you think they've not really got many mistakes in them. There's got a couple of players that will hurt you.
Tavernier.
And I think Tavernier has got a mistake in him, but I think he'll be replaced by Patterson at some point.
Yeah. I think you're saying you're looking at Rangers, the depth of them. Like even you go back, like obviously when they won the league last year, like you go back the year before, you look at like when you lost like a Morelos or a Connor Goldson or something like that, they looked vulnerable. Whereas now, like you can lose, like didn't have Morelos even on the bench, and yet he still looked dangerous. They had to bring Hadji off in the first half because of injury, and Scott Wright replaced him and still looked dangerous. I think it's the case of when their biggest mistake I think is going to be I think it's how their attacking players attack rather than the defence fumbling something.
I think teams will still take points off them. I don't think they'll go the whole season again. I think there will be teams that will take points off them. Livingston were poor. I wouldn't get carried away with the first game of the season against Livingston. I mean, Livingston have lost a lot of their good players. The striker, Jet, whatever he wants to be called, he's with Aberdeen, is it? And your Livingston aren't the team that they were last season, in the middle part of last season. And I think they'll have a lot tougher challenges. But you look at the Rangers game, and Rangers were all over them for the first 7 minutes till they scored. Didn't they score again till end of the second half? Just about. No. I think there is other teams that will punish Rangers, as opposed to what happened last season. I think McGregor will make a difference again, but again he's another year older.
Yeah.
Be cashing his pension.
You're saying with Livingston being like that, obviously scored and that, then they kind of tailed off. I think when you look at other clubs, like I think Hibs will probably be the usual. Hibs and Celtic will probably give them an issue. But you look at the rest of the clubs, you look at Hearts against Celtic. Hearts defended deep. They only had less than 30% possession or something like that. I think it was 27 maybe. Don't quote me on the exact numbers here. And like I think that's what as we got to look at. I think that's what Rangers will face most of the season is they're going to be having to like break down the two banks of four or a bank of four and a bank of five they're having to get through 9, 10 players to even get a shot at goal. And I think when you looked at Livy, that's kind of what they did yesterday, and Rangers still found a way to squirm through enough times. And I think teams who open up against them might be susceptible to getting hit on counters and breaks.
Well, yeah.
I think you look at it, add Aberdeen into the system you said. Obviously, Aberdeen again, they beat Dundee United 2-0. I didn't see much or any of that game, but after playing midweek, getting beat midweek actually, winning the first leg 5-1, gave them a chance to lose the second leg 2-0. Was it Haven they were playing, whoever it was? But I gone Dundee United beating them 2-0. Do you think Aberdeen's going to do much this year after?
Fourth. Unless we take Nesbitt.
I'd agree with that.
We take Nesbitt, and then it might be close for third. But I think fourth for Aberdeen. The other two games, just to round the review of this week on the SPFL, is Dundee 2, St Mirren 2.
Come dog with a goal.
Yes, and was it you that predicted Dundee top 6, Martin?
Yes.
And that result boost your confidence?
I predicted St Mirren 7th, so yes.
Well, I said St Mirren 6th and relegated.
Aye.
So I think a 2-2 result.
So James, which one are you going for now? St Mirren are going to be 6th or relegated?
9th. Converge them.
Aye.
No, St Mirren. I don't know why I said they're relegated. They play nice football. I think they'll be thereabouts for the top 6. And then the game that we didn't talk about because it finished.
Nothing happened.
Was Ross County v St Johnstone. Yeah, I think that's where we'll end it.
Aye.
End it
2 points stroke for St Johnstone there.
Yes. Yeah. But that was this weekend's SPFL Premier League kickoff. But outside that, there was also a very funny moment at Albion Rovers in the lower division. Martin, you know what happened here.
Oh, Albion. Now you sort of look at within. I know when people from England look at Scottish football, look at it as a bit a cowboy outfit. It's not quite up to that level. So referee got injured in the Albion Rovers game, and as happens, the referee steps out, and usually the fourth official would then take one of the assistant referees' jobs, and then
very proud of you.
Yeah. So then the fourth official becomes the lino, and then the game continues without a fourth official. Yeah, that level of football doesn't have a fourth official. So what happens, now this has happened a few times, is the stadium announcer will usually call out, has anybody got this level of refereeing certificate, or who's got the highest level of refereeing certificate? Albion Rovers had somebody on the bench that had their referees badges. So he was all there. He's got the linesman's flag, and he's standing on the pitch ready to start. Gary Naismith has gone mental. He's not wanting to have an Albion Rovers player taking. You can imagine what it'd be like if the ball was through and goal 3 yards offside, not no offside. Offside, you're offside because you weren't anywhere near it, and it'd be an unfair advantage to Albion Rovers. And Gary Naismith's gone mental. So what was eventually, and this took a wee while as well, what was eventually decided was they would just have one linesman or assistant referee on one side of the pitch and not have anybody on the other side of the pitch, and the game would continue. That is just a bit Mickey Mouse for my liking. You've got an opinion on this. Did you see much yet?
I saw the Twitter page, which exploded. There's always one tweet every weekend in Scottish football from the lower leagues, which just goes viral. And it's one of the joys of Scottish football. As we say, we're not the most tactical or technical game, but we're certainly one of the most entertaining. The banter is there.
Aye.
The Mickey Mouse
Entertainment and not
factor.
for football instruction.
Yeah, it's just incredible. You'll never go without a laugh in Scottish football. And we know it, and that actually adds to the humour.
Yeah.
I can just imagine the one linesman, though. How knackered would you have been after the game?
Oh, I don't know if he ran the length of the pitch, goalpost to goalpost, or we just done his sort of half, or I don't know what the system was with that.
You'd have had to go
aye,
line to line.
It's crazy situations. I know it has happened I know it's happened with people coming out of the stand and taking the fourth official role. That's happened Premiership level. But they've had that extra referee to sort of to do that. But it just sort of screamed Mickey Mouse, and Gary Naismith, the ex-Jambo, greeting about it sort of made my day.
We can say with confidence you'll never see that in English football, which is why football is better.
Exactly. Now, there was a couple of other funny things over the course of the weekend. Kevin Friend, who is English referee, Premiership level referee. I don't know if everybody's seen it, and I'm sure to add to our editor's job, he can put a link in the description. Kevin Friend has taken a game with Aston Villa and Bristol City, where a set of fans, which I'm sure is Aston Villa, started chanting to him, "You're just a shit Mike Dean." Shit Mike Dean! You're just a shit Mike Dean!
That's, to be fair, if you're a referee, that is the ultimate insult.
Exactly. And then from that, they started chanting something else to him, and Kevin Friends went over to the fans and just gave them a yellow card, and then carried on with you. Now that's what you like. I mean, referees actually enjoying the game, friendly, didn't really matter much. Kind of, he's got an opinion on that. It's not like referees are actually likable at all. Able.
I think I've got a worse insult than you're a shit Mike Dean. You're a shit Willie Collum.
Oh, don't go Willie Collum. Oh.
I'll start on the referee that took the fucking hits game of the day.
Bobby Miller, Andrew Dallas. I'll go through them all. Is it Steve?
I'll have to send you a picture later on, James. It's all the referees all wearing Rangers tops, which is what we all think is happening. It's nice for friends like that to sort of to have that wee bit of enjoyment about them.
That's funny. That's good banter. He's went to estimations.
Couple of other funny stories. Hamilton, dog shit. Hamilton, 4-0 down after 64 minutes. I'm fucking loving it. I am on Facebook. I am slagging Hamilton fans. Joyous occasions. Yeah, the bastards fucking scored 4 goals in the rest of the game. 4-4 it finished. Not happy.
There's a funny thing that your Facebook insults just backfired rapidly.
Well, that escalated. I can picture a Will Ferrell with a bottle. It's always good when you put something on Facebook and then 15, 20 minutes later you're just showing up to be a cunt. A couple of other funny things.
I do it every day.
I call it the James Bundy effect. Anyway, there was, I don't know if he's heard about Falkirk. Falkirk during the week they were trying their hardest to get the game called off. What happened was there was a couple of.
Had they not had to forfeit their last League Cup tie as well because they couldn't field the team?
So the last two League Cup ties, they couldn't field the team because they were all self-isolating. So they were all finishing self-isolating on the Friday night or the Saturday, wherever it was, the day before the next game. And basically the manager and the board had said basically, we can't field the team because they've just came out of isolation. They're no fit. They've not done a pre-match, and the SPFL just basically told them to piss off and play the game or they'll forfeit. So they played the game and they drew one each with Cove Rangers, who are looking at me. They're the two teams that are looking to win that league. So a great result for Falkirk. What do you think about that? Do you think they should have played the game? Should have played the game? I was fairly expecting Cove Rangers to gub them though.
I think they should play the game. I can sense Falkirk's dismay at being told to play, but the schedule's already pretty crammed. You just cram it up even more at the latest stage of the season. And in hindsight, one each with Cove Rangers, you'll take it. Move on. You're probably going to win the league. Unless you blow a 15-point lead again. But, yeah.
I'm sure the 3 Falkirk fans would be gutted to hear that. The last story I've got is it's really petty, and petty and Rangers kind of go hand in hand. So Rangers, whether through clerical error or through doing it blatantly on purpose, didn't have the new sponsors of the SPFL on their strip for their game against Livingston. Now, every other team have had it, and Rangers didn't. Now, the new sponsors is Cinch, who sells second-hand cars, and it's quite a whether it's kind of serendipitous or whether it's just it kind of coincides with the Douglas Park, the chairman of Rangers. He owns a car company that sells cars, so he's decided not to sell cars on the strip. James Mitchell, we've got an opinion on this. I've put out there that might be the cause, but
you might very well think that, but I couldn't possibly comment.
James, how comfy is that fence?
That is very comfortable.
I was going to say, I'll translate what James actually means. Yes, that is exactly the reason why it's not happened. It's a conflict of interest.
Complete conflict of interest.
I dreamed a dream last night that I'd be Shahan on the podcast tonight. And just sit on the fence, and that's what I've done.
Yeah.
But it is very.
But it's a bit of a shit fight though. I mean, Douglas Park sitting there being master of the house, and he's decided, nah, we're just not doing it. Not doing it. No, not happening.
It's backfired though.
Oh, it's completely backfired. I've never heard of Cinch.
Not the car. Douglas Park's technique.
I had never heard of Cinch until Rangers came out against them. Now I'll buy a car from them.
Allegedly came out against them.
Allegedly came out against them. And it wasn't until then that I noticed Ryland with his orange tan standing on the telly selling Cinch cars. I don't even watch advertisements. My mind just goes blank while they're on. Now that I'm noticing these things, I might actually buy a car from Cinch. Thank you very much, Donald Park.
And there is Val John's soliloquy.
Yeah.
You mentioned Master of the House. I had to make the Val John reference. Come on.
Aye, very sure. As long as nobody starts mentioning the deathy Galterix or whatever his name is. Gabrich? Anyway.
Small boy.
Anyway, let's go with this. That's the stories I've got. So, Mitchell, I know you're not overly indulged within Scottish football, so you're more taking gold medals within the Olympics. What's happening in Tokyo?
GB seems to fuck it in all the ball sports. Let's go. Let's
that's the end of that topic. So,
no, I think the first thing is like when it comes to Olympics, I tend to watch all the competitive things. So your rugby sevens, your football, hockey, tennis, everything where you win because you're better, not you win because someone scored you better. That's it. And I've watched it. I've watched it.
Controversial.
Oh, controversial from Mitchell.
Ooh.
That's not like you. You're usually quite comfortable on that fence.
You've just
Usually I've
took an
usually I've no idea what I'm on
knocked that fence down.
I usually have no idea what I'm on about. That's
You just sat on a fence that Bruce has already been on.
This gymnast
Hi, Bruce.
audience which we have has just been highly insulted.
If I can do a head vault over a horse, anyone can do gymnastics. I can do that. I did it in high school a few years ago. But yeah, like watching GB and so I think first thing to go with is I think my favourite sport to watch at Olympics is always rugby sevens. Much as Martin hates egg chasing,
that's an Olympic sport. How the fuck's that? Olympics was made in Greece in fucking the centuries ago. How is that an Olympic sport?
Let's put a pin in it, Martin. We'll come back to sports that are somehow in the Olympics later.
Martin, I've got some encouraging news for you. Not even the rugby players think it should be in the Olympics. That's why we can only keep
No, but I think I watch rugby sevens because the rugby sevens is just a great thing to watch, especially the back-to-back champions PG. Watching them play rugby sevens is just a thing of beauty. It's just a case of when they translate that to the full-on game. I think even Martin, I think even you would enjoy watching a game of sevens, which is saying something.
I've watched a couple of the games of the sevens. My thinking of it is, if you've got a Speedy Gonzalez on the wing, you'll win games. There is so much space.
Yeah.
And is rugby about that? Should be more tactical.
Basically, if Martin Boyle played rugby, your team would win.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We'll call him up.
The difference with sevens is that, you can play someone on the wing, but then you've still got to get the ball out there. And it's not like you've got 14, 12, 13 men to get it out there. Yeah, you try and pass it, but if you want them to have all the space to the wing, you're going to have to throw a big, long, looping pass. And let's be honest, it's quite handy for someone to run in and grab it. Happened. It's one of the main turnovers because teams push it. But let's move on from this. I feel like you've just got to gang up on me here. I can't be bothered with that tonight.
Not at all.
Not at all. I try to be impartial on these occasions.
Do you fuck? I'm like,
you're
right. Heart.
Yeah, you're right.
Martin, to go back to the question, how did that get on? How is that an Olympic sport? Here's a question. These sports: golf, BMX, and what was the other one I said? Totally got. Well, anything like
baseball.
Softball is one. Like
softball.
And surfing. How can you consider them Olympic sports?
I'd like to add to that. I actually flicked channels at one point and stumbled upon the Olympics. And while upon watching the Olympics, there was basketball, and I thought, good, I'll watch some basketball. So the ball was round one ring. Somebody had a shot, they missed, it came back out. The other team then went for the same ring. I'm thinking, what the fuck's happening here? It's 3 on 3 on the same ring. That's not an Olympic sport. That's white men can't jump. That can't be an Olympic sport.
Half-court basketball is what you do in training.
You can fuck right off. Yeah. That's not Olympics. I understand 100-meter sprint. I understand 400-meter marathon, long jump, high jump, javelin, hammer throw. That's about it. Anything on top of that, that's anything track and field. Track and field's Olympics. You didn't have tennis, football, basketball, and all that pish yet. That's not the Olympics.
What? Why do you
Tell me
say
I'm
that?
wrong.
Why do you say that?
You're wrong.
Because it's not the Olympics.
What, why?
That's basically like me making up a game right now, and then me going and playing that game for my country at the Olympics against two other countries because they're the only other countries there, and I'll take a gold medal for it.
Tennis, football, basketball, even rugby are established sports. Surely they should be in the Olympics. Cycling as well.
But they're established sports that have their own trophies that you can exceed to be the best. Gold medal is not the best thing you can achieve at football. The World Cup is. Champions League is.
Yeah.
Winning your own league is. That's a lot better than a gold medal at a Fishy Olympics that only allows half the people to actually achieve it.
I actually would agree with Martin on the football stand.
Yes!
For the simple fact that you look at especially the inconsistency between the men's and the women's game, because the women's Olympics is basically the women's World Cup effectively with a few less teams. It's the national teams. If you look at the men have got, you can only have, I think it's 3 players over 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you've got so it's like, you've got all these restrictions, like must be young players, such and such. Like I think one of Brazil's players, Brazil's got, I think Dani Alves as a captain, which is still a great player to have, but it's like, well, it's no really Brazil. You don't really want to watch Olympic football when you're looking at the team and go, I barely know who anyone from Brazil is. I only know like 2 players.
Mitchell, I've got to disagree with you. And I'm going to use an example that's very timely just now. British and Irish Lions, when the teams of the United Kingdom and Ireland come together and play rugby, and all the rugby fans from all the nations get really excited because the teams are united for a short period of time, and then they go back and play for their home nation. Well, that's what it's like for me in the women's football and the men's football in London 2012, where all the nations of the UK come together for the football, and you can support a British team, Wales keeping that Scottish, English, Welsh and Northern Irish identity for the competitions that really matter. So that small thing.
Your statement right there, James. The competitions that really matter. That was enough. That's. I don't even have to argue now. Sorry.
I want to argue this.
I was conceding that.
I want to argue this.
Well, no, I was conceding that point to Martin. And the Olympics football doesn't really matter if you're a football player, but for the fan and have the opportunity to support Team GB in football is something light-hearted. It gets the fans a good feel. It's like the same with the British and Irish Lions.
The difference is, and I'm going to go into a hockey rant here. I've made it before in the chat.
Oh, come on.
No, for fuck's sake. James, you've got to go on a hockey rant.
Talking about sports that shouldn't be an Olympic sport. Yes, Mitchell, off you go.
But I think you look at it, and it's Team GB in Ireland. But when you look at it, no matter, like, I'm using the hockey example, I know the hockey. You look at that, and it's like, it's not Team GB, it's Team England with a couple. For the men's hockey, it was Team GB with 2 Welsh guys.
Well, look at the swimming, Duncan Scott from Stirling University winning it all. That's just fantastic.
Oh no, I don't disagree. Like, yeah, there are some, but when you look at when it comes to the teams, and I pick hockey because hockey, way it works is you get what's called like how football you get your UEFA coefficient points. So if Scotland do well, they get more points for Scotland. If Celtic do well, Rangers, Hibs and other, you get points for Scotland. Yes. In hockey, it's the same, but for Team GB's points get split depending on how many players they have from each country. So if it's England heavy, which it usually is, rightfully so most of the time, I will concede. England get most of the points. England will get the big boost of points. Wales will get a little dribble. Scotland get a dribble. And Ireland, again, the weird one. Ireland play with Ireland. You don't play with Northern Ireland play with Ireland. You don't play with Team GB. Yeah. And then you look at the women's football.
That does make sense. It's all one country.
Northern Ireland is not part of Great Britain. It's the Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. Great Britain is the island of Scotland, England, and Wales.
Oh yes, I know that.
And Isle of Man and all that.
No.
There's a
But
geography
look at-
lesson, which you probably didn't tune in for, but
And the people that haven't fell asleep.
But then you look at the women's football team this year. I think that's a wee bit more diverse, but again, it's mainly English. I think you've got 2 Scots in it. I think Kim Little and someone else. I can't remember the other Scot. Say myself.
Metro, you've got 55 million people in England. You've got about 5 million people in Scotland. The odds of Scotland being equally represented for a Team GB team is very low.
Oh no, I don't mean equal representation, but there's a number of times, and I think sometimes when you look at it, you can see it with the Lions. Sometimes with the Lions, like with the Lions, I think it's more a Welsh contingent. You kind of look at it. They look at a manager, and the manager goes, "Okay, I know these players. So I worked with them. So I was English." They kind of hold on to that because they were in England set up, and then they pull them through. Whereas, and same with Warren Gatland and the Lions, he was the Welsh set up. They still pulls through from the Welsh, pulls through a contingent of Welsh. And I feel like when it comes to like the team sports like that, there has to be a sort of a separation of like, well, yeah, okay, you may be this, but okay, you've got these players as well who are equally as good. And I think the coach needs to be different from like being England head coach to Team GB head coach, which happens a lot.
Well, we come up with a solution on the podcast that we will email Team GB, which is foreign coach with no allegiance to the UK.
Foreign coach. Let's go with Sven Goran Eriksson.
Yes, and say you manage the team, and you've got no allegiance to any nation in the UK, so you can pick the best players, the players who should be there according to merit, rather than this coach knows them, so should be in.
So I'd agree with that to an extent. I think, well, looking at the rest of the Olympics, there is quite a lot going on about the gymnastics and stuff. There was a lassie who's decided, well, she was going to be the best, guaranteed 3 or 4 golds, and she's decided just to go home because she didn't want to bother. Or more that she's had a bit of a mental breakdown and decided that it was just a bit too much for her. Does anybody want to go there?
I'm happy to go there, and
that's not bad actually. It's maybe the weird one where we actually agree and we're all absolute dicks.
No. I am on Team Simone for this.
It's just Simone.
Simone. Oh, there you go, Simone. I'm on Team Simone. No, she was under incredible pressure. The setup of the US gymnastics team was insufficient. Basically, it was, we'll win the team events because we've got her, and we only need to rely on her, and other people don't really need to care about it. She's had these expectations since 2012 of constant success, constant, if you don't do well, you're no longer who you are. And her Instagram post, which you had to feel sorry for her when reading it, which was, I am more than just my success. And that realization has come during the Olympics. She probably thought it before, but she's publicly stated it now. And I think she's just said, if they're not going to treat me correctly, I'm not going to get them gold medals. She's got them in the bag already from Rio and London.
I think, to be cynical on it, is when you look at it, she did her full performance and absolutely messed it up. She fell over, she didn't hit her landing. Yes, I actually, despite hating gymnastics and reporting the weight squad, I did actually see clips of her because she failed basically, and that was the big story.
You watch it because there's attractive ladies in tight underwear, just like the rest of us.
I'm so glad I've got my headphones in. She couldn't hear that. But no, like, look at that. Then the post comes out about, like, obviously, I have no idea what the backlash there was, basically cocking up on the team. but it did just seem a bit like, oh, she's messed up her routine, and then it came out she's actually carrying a minor injury as well. It's sort of like it all seemed a bit too convenient to fall into place like that, like mental health. She messed up the routine, which was called mental health, but then also she's also now got a minor injury. That's why she's pulling out. It's a bit like it's a bit like to me, she's messed up. She's taken it hard, and now she's kind of had a couple tried to cover up the reason why she's not going to basically not want to play anymore.
What happened? Oh, she may have messed up because she was already mentally in a poor place.
That's a fair point. I don't know. As I said, I was being, from what I know, and being cynical. It feels a bit like she's went out, she's messed up, and then she kind of went, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. After, I think was it an individual or was it team event that she messed up on?
It was during the team performance, and she's pulled up individuals afterwards. But I think it's very positive for sports in general. Ben Stokes has now announced that he's taking time aside from cricket for mental health reasons. So if we take mental health more seriously in sport, then she has proven to not only be a role model on the floor, pummel horse, rings and everything else that gymnasts use as equipment, but she's a positive role model for every person at the Olympics and for future generations in sport. I think that's a very good thing and very courageous thing and very humble, and humility is something that we should try and promote.
Nah, no about it. So basically she fucked up. She decided that I've messed up. I didn't want to let everybody else down. I've got enough money in the bank. Let's just call it a day. You've got to look at sort of some of the things and sort of, like Mitchell says, be a bit cynical about it. Has this Olympics matched everybody's actual worth of what Olympics is? No, because there's no fans. It's a year later, so everybody's sort of had all their stuff ready a year before, and then they've had to wait a year later. There's no fans there. The stadium, I mean, it's empty chairs and empty tables everywhere, and there's no chance of anybody being there to see it. There's a couple of fans, and that's it. And that's not fair for the people that are actually there trying their best to compete. But that's what they've got. Yes, James.
What tables are empty that would have been full if fans were there?
All the tables that obviously they've got executive lounges and stuff. They've got tables, you know.
They're being used by the coaching staff.
It's a case of like the stars and the multitude are kind of performing to no one. It's It's a bit like there's nothing there. It's really just you've got other competitors and maybe the TV camera.
No.
You need fans, I think, to push you forward. I think.
Oh,
I think with Simone Biles, I think if there was fans there and it wasn't just like a empty, still in silence when she messed up, and because the fans would have been empathetic with her, I think, and probably would have. They wouldn't have hounded us. Japanese fans, if you go by, they're probably some of the nicest fans you could ever have.
Yeah, they tidy up after themselves.
Yes. And I think they could have possibly, that might have changed the situation. She wouldn't have been affected as badly.
You're saying that the fans aren't pushing the athletes on. Well, I watched the long jump today for the women, and there was a world record, and the woman nearly ran out of track. She nearly jumped in the sand in the second jump. It was that big, her jump. It was incredible. She gained about 6 meters in the first jump, and then only 3 because she would have went into the sandpit if she kept the momentum.
Who the fuck jumped 6 meters in the first jump?
I know.
I'm lucky if I could do it. I'm lucky if I could do half of me.
So she just went like, woo, woo, woo. It was incredible. So she was amazing, and she broke the world record when doing that. She won gold with her first jump. She was that far ahead of everyone, and the other 5 attempts was just to try and break this world record, and then she nailed it on the last one. And then
It must be bad when you're doing something like the Olympics and the person before you beats the world record and sets a new world record, and then you go after them and you beat the world record that was there before, but you didn't beat the person that was 3 seconds ahead of you, so you've never held a world record. That's a complete dick.
Yeah. And then I think the final thing that I would mention from today is Italy's success. On top of the Eurovision and Euros, they have got the joint Olympic champion for the high jump, which I've never heard of a joint Olympic champion before. But there you go. It was Italy and Qatar, which sounds like a World Cup 2030 bid, but yeah.
That is the World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's Italy, Saudi Arabia are actually trying to talk about a joint bid for the World Cup. Yeah, I don't know how that would work, but that's despite the point.
Well, we had the Euros all over Europe, so.
Yeah, well, I've never seen a joint Olympic champion, but today I saw it for the first time. So that was interesting. And then the 100 meters, the poor British guy. Oh, I've never felt so sad since watching Javert Suicide in Les Mis. Like, I mean, the guy just ran off and was disqualified. Yeah, I was like, come on, what are you doing? You've got to wait for the gun, guy. Then you go.
Well, so that happened with Linford Christie at one point during the Olympics, and he was. I think they actually said that because your body is so obviously you built up for so long, your body is so ready and anticipating this that you can just. Mitch will know about this. Finish early and just sort of just start before you're supposed to. And
no, I've never really finished early.
So I can understand the sort of. So I think it's extremely harsh, but you can imagine every person in the 100-meter sprint having one go at starting early, and it take ages to get your 100-meter sprint started.
You don't have that problem, Martin. Your problem is both break too late. So the British guy.
Tell me about it.
Right. And I actually felt sorry for the Chinese man because, see, before the first one, he was so pumped up, and I was like, he's going to win. By the second start, he was totally unfocused, and he finished last out of the people that finished. I was like, sure, man.
I want to let you in a secret here, James. He was going to finish last anyway.
Well, all of them finished sub 10 seconds, which shows it was a quick race.
Yeah.
But the Italian guy won. And he kept running after he crossed the finishing line, and then hugged the Italian who won the high jump. And the guy just stood there. It was very, very emotional.
There was meatballs and spaghetti and pizza and.
I think so. Why not? They've won Olympic gold. Anything else you'd want to cover about the Olympics? Mitchell?
Well, I think we should possibly maybe leave it there. At the end of the day, I think we should end on a high note with the two Italians with their hearts full of love.
I saw what you did there. He made reference to Les Mis.
The second time I've done it.
I know it has.
I've yet to actually see Les Mis, so.
What?
The first one wonder you see that the snogging during it.
No.
Well,
Sorry.
I say that as somebody who is on my own. But before that, after that, we'll just score a line under that. We are going to go to a traditional round table, and I had a look at what was trending on Twitter.
I'm glad to say that James has not preempted anything on this yet, so this is fresh.
This is incredibly fresh.
I don't think Les Mis was trending, sadly.
No, Les Mis was not trending, sadly. Let me look down on my phone and see what is trending. I don't have to. I've already picked what I'm doing. Ariana Grande has signed a deal with Fortnite, and it's just been announced. So Ariana Grande is a character on Fortnite now, and apparently her ponytail is a
Wait a minute. Was there not a shoot? Was there not a shoot in one of her concerts? That's a bit off, is it not?
I think
So
that was a very dark attempt at a joke, Martin.
Yeah, it was a bombing, and yeah, she's in Fortnite. At least this time she could rebuild the stadium in an instant.
Hi.
She
should be a bit more considerate, I think.
I've never played Fortnite, so I don't know the game. The only thing I know about Fortnite is Deli Alley celebrations. The floss apparently is one. When I found like
James, can you do the floss?
Yes.
No. Can you do the floss? And never asked if you can floss.
I floss once a day. Good dental hygiene. But the reason why I picked this is because what sports star would you want in Fortnite as like a camel?
Cameo.
This is a very
camel?
Not a camel. It's a camel.
Cameo.
I'm tired.
Blend into the background.
Cameo. This is easier for
Ask them in Latin, they give it perfect. Ask them English, can't fucking say it.
So, a sports star cameo on Fortnite.
Any sport?
Any sport.
I'm going to go like that one. Ryan Giggs and his special powers would get bonus damage with female characters.
Who?
Ryan Giggs.
Ryan Giggs.
What do you think I said?
I didn't hear it. So.
I thought you said Ryan Camel. I was like, oh, what's a camel? Martin, any ideas? What sports star on Fortnite?
I reckon, James, you should go first, and I'll follow.
I think Ryan Porteous.
Because he's got an impressive tackle.
Impressive, being used very loosely. Kyle Lafferty also a shout. Andy Halliday is also up there. Should have been red carded. Did I mention that?
Scott Brown is a bit of a fun.
Well, he plays for Aberdeen though, so yeah.
Naismith.
Naismith.
Should we just say in Scottish football?
Joey Barton.
Well, I find that the people that play Fortnite are usually quite young, so I would say that Lee Griffiths would take a shot at a couple of under-15s.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
What about Gilfie Sigurdsson? Did you write it?
Allegedly.
I would love to see somebody like Ibrahimovic, because he would just stand. He'd come down to the parachute, sail to a spot, and he'd just stand there like that, and then he'd just get shot, and that's what he'd do. That's useless apart from a persona.
What about Pepe?
Oh, he would just kick everybody.
Oh, I'm going got Luis Suarez. Can bite everyone.
Oh.
Going for a rugby team. Kyle Sinclair, because he's just been banned for biting a player on Saturday, biting a South African player on Saturday.
All about biting people, aren't you?
What about a fencer or like a javelin thrower?
I was
Name me a
thinking a
fencer.
javelin thrower,
Or
but I don't know any.
shooting's a sport in the Olympics, so that would be a good one. Couldn't name anyone, but one of them, the gold medalist, will pick them, and they can play.
I reckon just like De Bruyne had come down with a football on his feet, dribble it about a bit, kick it against somebody's head, kill them. Like a 50% a headshot would get him every time. Dip, swerve, right on their head. It wouldn't kill them, but it'd be a headshot. They'd daze them for like 3 seconds before they shot him.
And to prove that I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, no scope.
Yeah. No scope him.
No scope him. There you go. That shows you my gaming intellect, everyone.
Yeah.
But expected goals on FIFA this year, so something to be very excited about. Makes my writing career with Graham Potter and Edward more realistic.
Yeah. Just keep hoping that you can get rid of him because he's pish for you. Good for under 21 France.
Yes, we'll take him for 18 million and we'll get Nesbitt for 5. That sounds like a good transition.
Can't see it happening.
But before we repeat ourselves for the umpteenth time, let's just say thank you for watching if you've made it this far. I hope you enjoyed a review of the Scottish football opening weekend, the funniest moments of the football weekend. Kevin Friend, if you're watching, fair play, good job, good banter. And thank you, Mitchell, for the run around at the Olympics in Tokyo. It was
A lot to cover.
a lot to cover. I think it was very succinct. But for us, it was succinct anyway. But,
Did they convince me the Olympics is pish?
and on that note, do share your comments. If you're as passionate about Martin and your disapproval of the Olympics, let us know. If you're in favour, also let us know. And yeah, make sure to subscribe, follow, and like on the social media platforms. See you again next week.
Sports Hut Podcast.
That's like a
Sports Hub Podcast.